Welcome to another episode of Consumer Engagement in an Omnichannel World. Our co-hosts, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers in store, online, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Shri and Peter.
Welcome to our listeners and our audience. Another episode of Consumer Engagement in an Omnichannel World. Here, week over week, our co-host Peter and I discuss the transformation of the CPG industry as we rapidly move to digital engagement. And we have several hosts come on board. Recently, we had Brian Gildenberg from the Omnicom Group. We had Jose Luis Gomes from dunnhumby, the president of North America, and many more guests to come. And here we have a guest that I'm very proud of today because she's a former colleague of mine. But first, let's welcome our co-host, Peter.
Shri, you're the Lucy to my Ethel, the Bert to my Ernie, the Spock to my Kirk. It's always good to be with you. How you doing, friend?
It's too good to be true when you have a comedian as your co-host. So I'm lucky that we have one. And without further ado, welcome Oshiya Savur, the VP of the luxury division at Revlon for marketing. Welcome aboard, Oshiya. Tell us about yourself, what you do, and how you really got into this digital ecosystem.
Hey, Shri. First of all, you both have really beautiful radio voices. So I hope I can match up with that.
But my wife tells me I have a face for radio, so I don't know what that means.
What does that mean? So very excited to be here. Currently, as you mentioned, I'm the VP of marketing at Luxury Division, which means I'm managing all of the marketing for Elizabeth Arden, Juicy, for John Barbados, All Saints, amongst many, many other brands. I think what's exciting about my current role is that it's an omni-channel view that cuts across brick and mortar stores into all of our e-retail channels, Amazon, direct to consumer. In terms of categories, I'm touching skincare, makeup, fragrances, both women and men's. And prior to Revlon, I was at Unilever, where I still spent majority of my career, about 10 years. So a lot of mass experience across hair care, body care, deodorants. To talk about it, really, I think in personal care, every category there is, I have touched it within mass and prestige as well. And now at this point in time in local and global roles. So very excited to talk about it, both as a global marketer, but also as a marketer who's now really focused on e-commerce and in how the world around us is just changing so fast.
So Peter and I enjoyed even more when we have people who've touched multiple categories, as you have, as well as very much like us, have a deep brick and mortar background in addition to the digital background as well, because that just leads itself to a deep conversation on the shopper and consumer. And that's where we'll start this conversation, which is if I wore a shopper's hat, do I even care? You know, we mentioned luxury division. Do I even care what is luxury, what is mass? Do I wear that lens? And then can you help the audience understand what does it mean when someone says luxury beauty?
Sure. I think luxury by definition is a price point, right? At the very fundamental, tangible, functional level, it's what you pay for. It's more expensive than mass. It's higher order claims. It's higher order benefits. You know, even in the product, when you infuse something with it in a $5 product versus you actually have active level ingredients in a luxury product. But really, to me, more fundamentally, and as I look at just consumers and shoppers, I try not to look at it more from a functional and demographic standpoint. I always try to go at it from a very psychographic standpoint. And what to me is truly fascinating about luxury is what it makes people feel. So when you look at the data of the consumer makeup of who actually buys luxury goods, actually, if you, on an average, so first of all, there is nothing like really exclusively luxury goods buyers. There are people who transcend price points all the time. They transcend retailers, they transcend price points, even within beauty. They buy mass products and prestige products all at the same time. I was very surprised to see that roughly 3 to 4% people in each of the income brackets would qualify as exclusively luxury. But it's very interesting that it actually over-indexes with the less affluent target audience, so less than $50,000 households. You actually see that they over-index on exclusively buying luxury goods. So having worked on Swap in my past life, what I've really come to believe is that it's all about value for money and the value that people place on something. I think it's one thing to have $1 million, and it's whole another thing to feel like $1 million. And I do think that luxury beauty does that for people in a very fascinating way. And I think that there are so many numbers to prove that it does not matter how much money you make for you to buy luxury products versus mass products.
What an interesting definition of luxury. And speaking of touching and feeling and knowing, I'm sorry, I wouldn't know because I don't have those multiple millions sitting somewhere with access.
Neither do I. Yeah.
Let me start by saying, Oshiya, how happy we are to have you on the podcast today. Very excited. And I think back to my Kroger days when I worked at dunnhumby. You touched on a very important point about the exclusivity of people buying luxury goods. We had customer segments that showed that there was a group of customers that were very splurge and save. There were some categories where they didn't care about it, but there were a lot of categories where they only bought very expensive, very luxury goods. So it really depends, to your point, on what the value is for the specific product or service that you care about. I want to get to this concept of luxury and how it is transforming in terms of purchasing habits. From your perspective, what are some of the major trends going on in the industry right now that are dramatically or significantly affecting the purchasing habits around luxury goods?
Sure. I mean, it's at this point in time quite stating the obvious, right? That e-commerce sales are through the roof, right? Everybody knows that. It's almost stating a fact. It's true. And I think what COVID-19 has done, and it's just really accelerated some of the underlying trends that we were all already seeing. The digital growth and penetration for us, specifically in luxury division at Revlon, has always been over-indexed our overall company's penetration. So we've already been overdeveloped on it. And I think we're seeing that it's even more, the growth is double digits and triple digits and so on. Having said that, I'll also say that it will so far not yet offset the business we lost with brick and mortar closures, right? But that's for a separate conversation. But for now, I think e-commerce definitely has been a big change driver, and I think it will remain so. What I'm finding very fascinating, and just building on that conversation we had about affluence, I'm also finding that age group is getting younger. Historically, we've always thought that luxury goods is a higher price point, hence a higher age group. When you start making money is when you start spending that money. But what I'm finding, and my eyes were truly opened by my interns last year, and then I started to see data supporting that, and actually it's been very fascinated by how many, almost like when I was looking at the data, it was almost 68% of younger people, 18 to 24 people, say that they buy luxury goods. Now, whether they put it on their Christmas shopping list for their parents to buy it, or they're using their parents' or their mom's very expensive creams, I don't know what the source of that is, but I do find that the younger users are more engaged in luxury categories. It could also be because there have been a lot of direct-to-consumer players who are indie and who've also launched at higher price points, right? Because the direct-to-consumer model is more favorable to a higher price point just because of the operations that it takes to mobilize a direct-to-consumer site, right? So I think that could be another reason why we're finding that the younger users are more engaged in the category. One thing that is kind of one of those things that on luxury, we've always had gray market, right? In a very healthy company, you would see gray market would be about 5-ish% of your business. In where you're more dependent on it, it could even be 20% of your business. But oftentimes, gray market is your profit driver. It's that last minute rush. You want to make your year, make your quarter, dump. It just is what happens. It's nothing that nobody's proud of, but it just was what happens. I think in the past it could all be hidden, and the impact to your overall business wasn't as impactful. But now I find with so many widgets making it so easy online to compare pricing, especially on places like Amazon where price comparison is so easy to do, I find that little problem that we had, a little kept secret, is no longer a secret, and it's out there in the open. And I think it's disrupting pricing in very meaningful ways. So I think as luxury brands, I think all of us have to figure out how we're going to solve that big problem that we now have. And we all know that it literally takes one lower priced item to disrupt your pricing.
Hey, I just want to touch on one thing you said there, when you mentioned income. The one thing I've been dispelled of is the thought that income indicates a propensity to buy. In my experience, it only indicates a capacity to buy.
100%.
I remember my
100%.
first job out of business school. I was working for Hart's Pet Care, and at the time they sold livestock. On my second day on the job, I was in a delivery truck taking livestock to Woolworth stores. That's how old I am, Woolworth, in Spanish Harlem. And we were walking into this one store, and we had 16 cockatiels, which are songbirds. And they in 1992 they retailed for $80 a piece, and we were bringing in 16. And I said to the guy who was driving the truck, is this the delivery amount for the month? He goes, no, I come back in 2 days. And I said, you're selling 16 cockatiels at $80 a piece in Harlem for every 2 days? And he said, Peter, among this community, the songbirds are very much a luxury status item, and they save so that they can spend it on the things that are important to them. And that was my first understanding of this concept of what luxury really means. So I love you talking about this. I'll pass it on to Shri because I know he's itching to ask you another question.
Yeah.
I hear the word songbirds, I think Led Zeppelin and Stairway to Heaven. Songbirds that sing right in the middle of the song.
Bravo.
Sometimes all of our words have no meaning.
Okay,
right
let's
there,
not
right before that statement.
Let's not.
So I don't have musical talent, so we'll go back to digital.
Are we Freebird riffing? Are we doing Freebird now? What? Oh, sorry.
So, you referred to e-commerce obviously being a massive over-indexing type of situation in luxury beauty. We've just have what Peter and I have spoken in earlier episodes of the retail industry spinning into a black swan event, whether we wanted it or not. We are there now, and it's been caused by the pandemic. So in the last quarter, I'm sure you've seen a massive change in that digital purchasing habits. The two parts that I'd really like for you to talk to us about is, A, do you think that's here to stay in luxury beauty? And B, do you have a lot of partners, I imagine, that are non-necessarily digital and e-commerce anchored and also have a ton of stores that they run? What have you seen in the last quarter on your in-store partners, or now are they evolving to omni-channel, et cetera? So what's going on in the last quarter in luxury beauty?
Sure. I think, Shri, e-commerce, like I mentioned earlier, I think it was already on the way up, and I think it just accelerated. COVID-19 just accelerated that pace, right? But I'm yet to be convinced or to see that it would 100% take over the volume that we do in brick and mortar. I do find that ultimately we're human beings, and the senses that define us is going to remain an important part of us. So I think the touch and feel, which e-commerce will never deliver on, at least in the short term future, I just don't see how luxury, which is such a high touch, high service category, can survive without brick and mortar. I think that you want to feel like $1 million. I keep bringing that feeling because I really think that that's what is the fuel that fuels the luxury division, right? It's feeling like $1 million. It's like flaunting that bag of Bloomingdale's. I went to Bloomingdale's. I went to Saks Fifth Avenue. It's like flaunting the brand that you're wearing. It's feeling like you're wearing a beautiful cream, even if you can't afford it, right? So I think it's about the feeling, and it's about the touch, and it's the smell, right? A lot of what I do is fragrances, and it's a big problem. Like even the direct to consumer business, like we've scaled our skincare business quite dramatically, but for fragrances, we have to first and foremost figure out how do we fulfill the scent in a scalable manner, right? So I think for me, e-commerce has got its place. I'm a big believer. I think that it's going to continue to pace, and it must. And we have to keep finding ways how to acquire, how to engage with consumers. How do we keep pushing that envelope? But at least in the short run, I am not seeing how it might entirely offset or negate the rationale for brick and mortar to be. In terms of just the retailers, I am finding that overall the retailers are trying to catch up, right? It's a catch up. I think some were faster because they were already in the roadmap, tapping into those things. So they were able to launch some of those things faster. Ulta and Savur have definitely been at the forefront of innovation. I think some of the others are still finding their way, but I think it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. What I do also find is while e-commerce will keep growing, and as I mentioned, I fundamentally do believe that brick and mortar will still have a place to be. I think to me, the question is, what will brick and mortar become over time? Because I think that the current way in how we are engaging with the consumer is not that engaging anymore, right? She's seeking experiences. And in the way that we're delivering experiences today are not scalable, right? It's like you do an event, you do an activation, you're done. It's one city at a time, 1,000 people overall. It's not scalable. It's not scalable for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of brands like Lauder and L'Oreal and Elizabeth Arden. We're $100 million brand. A small event here and there doesn't make a dent, right? So it's experience at scale. I think that's what brick and mortar has to figure out. And I think Apple, again, stating the obvious, I think Apple's figured out how to deliver experience at scale with their brick and mortar stores, right? We just have to figure that for luxury beauty.
That's what I want to use the word on purpose. I want to say I worry about for the industry is digital has actually been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And having worked in P&Ls of massive brands, my own personal experience is brands have largely shied away from solving this problem because there's a dramatic downstream impact to the P&L.
Mm-hmm.
What you just described over here as events. Events are expensive to do. To me, the entire fragrance ecosystem has a big, giant problem in their hand. It's exactly what you said, because fragrances were built around what you would say was the smell or the fragrance itself. And not being able to do testing is an issue.
Yeah.
And even if e-commerce continues at the pace that it is, P&Ls don't have sampling programs in them. And I've experienced it not at one company, but multiple times over in my life.
Yeah.
So I think that's a major issue for the industry as digital comes by. How do you build a sample that works with the economics of the brand as well as at the retailer? And then how do you then fulfill those samples to a consumer so you can actually sustain growth?
Yeah, completely. And that would, whoever cracks it, competitive advantage for the next 3 years.
Peter, our mission here, I think Oshiya is giving us a challenge here.
Yeah, I am. I'm challenging myself. I'm challenging the industry. Whoever cracks it will come first in this race. It's still a $3 billion category to grab.
Yeah. Almost to a fault, when I talk to brand managers, they see the fuel of growth not being increasing distribution, not being increasing promotion. It's all about innovation. It's about creating a newer, better, more compelling product, better addressing consumer needs. So I'm kind of interested from your perspective in this omni-channel world. Where do you launch innovation? Is innovation something that you start in the store and you then support with digital? Or are you better off launching innovation in e-commerce and when it succeeds, then taking it in store? I'm kind of curious where your head is at right now in this omni-channel world.
Right. I think it's a very good question. I don't think that there's a straightforward answer. And to be honest, I think as a scaled business, that's the biggest challenge, right? Because who are we losing share to? It's not the other equally large players. We're losing share to indie brands that are able to fast-paced innovate, right? Yeah. And their MOQs are much smaller. The stakes are much lesser. They don't get sued when something goes wrong or their claims are not appropriate, whatever. Versus we have to go through the ringer, right? Because everything has to be appropriate, everything has to be validated, and so on. So I think there is something to be said about how do we create sort of like this experimentation stack or like a small little agile pod within the company that just thinks very differently, right? Like it's almost like you have an org structure that enables small MOQ, that enables a different mindset for a launch strategy, right? How do you use your brand.com to launch with very engaged customers, this very small launch? If it takes off, you go ahead and scale. If it doesn't take off, you never bother to scale, right? And I think that's where I think that the scaled businesses haven't quite figured that rhythm yet, because oftentimes, even when we are fast innovating, we're using our old processes and our old scale metrics to get there. So when we fail hard, right? Then we create tons of inventory, slob, that we're then getting rid of. And I think, Peter, it's a great question. I don't think people have cracked it yet, but I do think that that's the way to go, to create like a little experimentation hub to do that. And I don't think it's as the same thing as acquiring startups and acquiring new brands and the ways to do it. No, we still have to figure out how do we experiment with larger brands, because I do feel like larger brands still have a role to play in the economy. But how do we get them appropriate and ready to fight the smaller players, right? And I think that mindset of not just an innovation, but an innovative mindset on how do you experiment at a small scale.
Great.
So you know what? That leads me, small scale, large scale, that leads me to what I feel is a question that is at the top of my mind for every single brand. And that is, I've been quoted as calling this the kryptonite of scale CPG brands, and that is direct to consumer. I personally, again, having touched, I have lost track and count of how many global, multi-billion dollar brands. No brand that's scaled, has an in-store presence, and sells on pure plays on e-com really is ready for the world of D2C. And I feel that way strongly because a brand's entire ecosystem is built around its marketing and consumer communication capability, relying on a retailer to complete the fulfillment or the transaction. D2C is the business of retail, not necessarily just the business of marketing. You got to do everything, seed to innovation to fulfillment. So what do you see for this particular category? What's the future of this space, and what's its relationship with direct to consumer? Can this category of brands survive without really being strong on D2C?
I think I would say actually for luxury, pricing is an advantage, right? Because I think the direct to consumer model is an expensive one to operationalize, right? You save on the retailer margins and whatnot, but you still have to spend a lot of money to operationalize. It's the economy of ones versus pallets, right? To exactly what you've said, Shri, before. So I think in luxury, we do have that advantage versus mass categories, right? So I would say, if I were to even just take a step back, right? Does direct to consumer have a role to play in every single category and in every single division? I think the answer is yes, but what is the role it's going to play? So for instance, when in the case of mass, when you're selling an ASP of like $3 to $5, to operationalize a direct-to-consumer business in a way that it would ever scale and become $100 million channel on its own, perhaps the chances of that happening without losing a shirt is not going to happen, right? So then the role that you assign to your direct-to-consumer is not so much a revenue-driving channel, but rather your first-party data mining channel, right? Like, what do you want to learn from your direct-to-consumer? How do you want to experiment with your innovations there? How do you scale your innovations? How do you use the first-party data to create your lookalikes? How do you get smarter with your media planning, right? Like, how do you make that be a little hub of innovation, innovative mindset is how you look at it. But on luxury, because pricing is on our side, I would say that it is a no-brainer to want to build it out, because all you have to do is figure out the economics of it. And the businesses that have scaled and are multi-billion-dollar businesses and have figured out the economics of running a giant business, it's a matter of will. Do you want to learn this new channel? Once you want to learn it, it's not rocket science to deliver on it. And your price point allows you to do it. So for me, for the luxury business, I think it's a no-brainer. I think everybody should drive it and everybody should figure out before it's too late to do it.
Yeah, I think with going direct to consumer, you made a good point about using it for data. It's a great way to capture it, particularly customer feedback. Everybody knows that's my little windmill that I tilt at, getting ratings and reviews, and we know how much of an impact that can have on sales conversion. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room. Shri and I have mentioned this. We've named episodes after this. Shri's favorite, it's Amazon. And I got to imagine, being in New York, you are an Amazon shopper, a customer. I'd sure love to hear from your perspective, both as a consumer, mm-hmm. but even more importantly, as a merchant. What does Amazon mean to you, and how are you dealing with that?
Sure. I mean, as a shopper, Amazon's everything, right? I search there, I go there, even when I don't know a category. Here's generally my consumer journey, right? I don't know a category. I kind of know the brand name. I kind of know what I want. I go on Google, I search it up first. I get what I'm looking for, the category name, how to say that just so that it means something. Then I go to Amazon and I put it in, and then come all the listings, and I decide what I'm going to buy. The text match, everything that I hear as a merchant is what I do as a consumer. I'm like, yep, the search title is pretty long, great reviews, Amazon's choice, nothing, 2 seconds, purchase made, done.
Do you ever use it when you're in a physical store? Do you ever open up your mobile phone and actually look at Amazon when you're staring at products to help you make decisions?
You go to a physical store.
When was
you go to a physical store?
I know, it's been back in the day when we went to physical stores. I'm just curious because I find that, data I've seen that 70+% of the time when consumers are in physical stores and they need information on pricing or product description or anything, reviews in particular, they open up Amazon because they know they're going to find it. I'm just kind of curious.
Right. I think I would say I'm partly more like a New Yorker in that I don't think that I go to the store for the basics that are sold on Amazon. If I'm going to a store, I'm going for something which is more of an experience, right? So I'm going to a specialty store because it sells kind of clothes that no one else has, it's got jewelry or it's got makeup or whatever, like brands that I can find nowhere else. That's generally when I would go into a store, which is why I feel like for us to figure out that experience is not an event or an activation, because I say experience and people think event and activation. No, I don't mean that. I want experience at scale, something that makes me want to go on an everyday basis to your store. So no, I don't personally do that. And in our household, my husband's the grocery shopper, so I am too. I delay him so much because he's got his system down. Like I am banned from coming because I go with my cart this way, that way. It's not productive. So no, I don't personally do that, but I do know a lot of people who would and who do that.
So then, thinking about Amazon as a merchant, how do you deal with that from a luxury perspective?
I would say that Amazon hasn't quite figured out the luxury game yet. I think, and I've said this before, on Amazon, to shop for luxury products, it's not fun. There is no high touch, no high service. It's kind of like, I don't know, just buying a mop or a coffee filter. Like I've said before, it's like you're buying $100 cream and you're buying that. It's literally the same experience. So I don't see Amazon as a discovery channel. I see Amazon as a replenishment channel today. So if I, for instance, buy an Elizabeth Arden product already, I just want to go, I don't want to go to Macy's to do that. I'll just go to Amazon and buy it, right? It's replenishment. But if I wanted an experience, I wanted high touch service, I wanted to talk to that one staff member who I love, who looks at my skin, gives me advice, then yes, I'm going to Macy's for that. So it's I think they're not there yet in terms of experience, I feel.
Who wouldn't want to have a staff member that comes and looks after and knows your skin type and knows the fragrances and the smells that one likes? So that's pretty fascinating.
Bree's having a pedicure right now as we're speaking, so.
Yeah, it's getting to the underside of my soul. So if it gets ticklish over here, I apologize. So I think Peter and I haven't had this much fun having a conversation with one of our guests as we're having.
Oh, this is great. This is awesome.
This is awesome, Ben.
So, one of the areas that are very are anchors for everything we've just spoken to date about the luxury segment is the quality of the digital shelf. Yeah. And I think of it as many pieces, right? There's obviously pictures or digital images. You referred to the title earlier today that you yourself as a shopper look at. There's probably a bunch of videos, and then there's ratings and reviews that Peter and I kind of mentioned. You're even looking at ratings and reviews on Amazon when you're inside a store. Yeah. So how does all this come together for you as a leader in this space? And what's the importance of winning the digital shelf in 2020? And do you see any dramatic changes here in terms of these overall capabilities for the digital shelf go forward? Does the lean go heavier on reviews? Does it go heavier on the title? What do you see going on over here?
I think, Shri, all of it is. Unfortunately, I always hate to say all is important because I'm a person driven by priority. But quite honestly, when you think about your own behavior, it's title pulls you in, right? It's the listing, may the best title win to have you click through it, right? Once you click through it, you've got to get the reviews and you've got to get the content. I'm sorry, there is like no prioritizing within that. You've got to have the trifecta of these three things going. What makes it extremely hard as a marketer to do, though, is the quantum of content that's needed and the pace at which it needs to be updated, right? So for search, for instance, right, like the last 3 months of COVID-19 and the things that happen and the search behaviors change, we were looking for different things. To quickly pivot and to change up thousands of SKUs to show the new search behavior and optimize your titles for it, it is not possible to do as a human being, right? So I think the more I'm learning and living through this whole period, I'm realizing that what you can automate, you should automate, right? Like I'm trying to figure out within the content, reviews, and copy, what aspects of it require human intelligence, and what aspects of it, once intelligence is over and it becomes robotic, can be automated, right? Because I think the agility of change is just as important as the quality at which it was launched, right? So I think all of it is extremely important. I trying to figure out the holy grail of the trifecta and keeping it updated in a way that it's not going to break the bank. It's fast enough. It's all pervasive. It's not just one retailer wins. Oftentimes, and you have to prioritize. Oh, is it going to be Amazon? Is it going to be Walmart? Is it going to be Macy's? Now, how do I find ways internally within the systems to help me syndicate? Like when I do copy updates, it's like syndicated to 100 retailers. When I do a content update, it's syndicated to everything. It automatically takes the copy out, copy on image, copy not on image, that sort of stuff. Like how do I take the robotic aspects of this journey out of my people's hands, give it to the machines, and right, where do I use my people's brains in figuring out those messaging hierarchies, the content quality, what am I really trying to tell the consumer, what's going to really make them change their mind, that sort of stuff. So I think still figuring it out, we're work in progress. I think everybody's a work in progress right now, but I think digital shelf has to have all those three aspects.
I hear what you're saying about the robotic nature and being able to scale this out in an automated fashion. I still hear brands telling me that as they even think about the images that go in image carousels on retailer sites, that their PIM doesn't offer nearly enough automation to put everything in place. They're still going retailer by retailer and having to make that decision. So I think there's some growth opportunity there.
Yeah.
With respect to Revlon and its luxury brands like Elizabeth Arden, how are you guys evolving as a leader in this beauty category space? And how do you see the category overall evolving in the next couple of years?
I think what the biggest thing that's going to change for us in luxury category is that our retail landscape is going to change quite dramatically. I think it's no new news that a lot of our department stores, were also our largest percentage weight to our business, are currently on shaky ground, right? So we wait with bated breath how they're going to fix the business model, right? No names be named. How they're going to fix the business model and how do we move forward from here? I think as a brand, therefore, to the earlier conversation we were having, a direct-to-consumer channel is the only way out. Like, where do you pivot, right? And I think for me, it's almost become a thing of necessity versus a good to have. So I think in terms of just the channel mapping, I think a lot of it is going to change. I think in general, all of the macro trends that we are seeing as Gen Z gets more involved as purchase decision makers, right? As they start earning money and start having a share of wallet that we care about, I think that they're going to drive higher consciousness, higher standard from their brands. And again, authenticity, while hugely a buzzword, it's also going to remain extremely important because as a large brand, it's hard to build that one-on-one relationship with your customers, to tell those authentic stories. So I think that in luxury category too, we're going to keep facing those headwinds. We're going to keep having to figure out how do we innovate our brand messaging. And quite honestly, how do we, what's our tech stack to deliver on it, right? Like, how do we create those one-on-one relationships? I feel like things are starting to be possible, You can have those one-on-one relationships even as a scaled brand, but it's an investment in those technology spaces, right? It's a CapEx investment. So I think it's to be seen, but I do see that one-on-one, that high touch, high service aspect for prestige will stay, but how we deliver it will change. I think we'll have to figure out how do we crack our direct to consumer models, and I think in general, just the macro trend around higher standard from the brands, I think will continue to take shape.
Speaking of macro trends and Gen Z purpose, things of that nature, you refer to technology. So voice, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, fake news, or do they actually mean something in the luxury beauty category? And where do you see these things transforming the category? Or even what are y'all personally involved in this space?
Right. I think we're learning right now. So I'm going to talk more as a person who's in the industry and who talks to several vendor partners and just looking at stuff. I think AI is going to be like e-commerce. I feel that one can't exist without it. I think the quantum of work that we now have to generate. I mean, think about it. Just 4 years ago, right? My global marketing ad brief used to be one TV ad, 60 second, 30 second, 15 second. Okay, maybe cut to 6 seconds out of it, right? Make 2 print ads. Okay, and make banners out of it. That was the extent of my creative brief.
Yeah. Rotate on to the next brand.
Peter, she touched my favorite topic, media.
Oh, God, never open that door. Oh.
What have I gotten myself into? So, but now you think about the creative brief. I mean, it's endless the amount of content we need. And not only is it the endless quantum of the content you need, it has to be high quality that converts, and it has to change. Like we were talking about the agility and the ability to refresh it and make it relevant, I think has to happen. So for me, AI, I'm just waiting for it to become so sophisticated that I actually means something, that I can actually, when I say that I want to automate what I doesn't need human intelligence, I want to be able to do that. And I think for me, AI is the solution to do it. It's machine learning. Like, take all this robotic stuff from me. Do it for me, machine, right? Like, that's what I'm telling the machines to do. So AI for me is going to become synonymous with e-commerce. I think it's a matter of development and sophistication there. Voice, I'm a bit worried about it because, it's going to change quite dramatically how we are going to go to market because, earlier, and I think, Shri, it's one of your charts I remember from seeing at Revlon, it used to be the fight on the shelf, right? There would be 200 SKUs at a time, right? To a first page visibility on Amazon, which is maybe 6, 7, 8 listings, to mobile, which is now 3 listings, right? It's the race is like the race is just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And voice is just one. Who is going to be the one that she orders when she is making that decision or he's making that decision? I don't know. I don't know what happens to the marketing pipelines. Like, will we go back to offline marketing again? Because now it's really about just top of mind consideration, that when you're buying a detergent, make sure Tide comes to mind, because whatever comes to your mind, you're going to say it, right? Or it's no longer about that one-on-one relationship. It's about that top of mind offline consideration. I don't know. I'm worried about voice. I don't know how we will adapt. I'm learning yet about Amazon marketing, and now you throw voice into the picture. I'm like, oh my God, the marketers can't keep it straight anymore.
I've always
Peter,
thought
I'm sorry, my big learning for this week is I have actually contributed a useful chart to this planet Earth.
There we go.
Great. Many useful charts.
Well, I'll tell you, voice for me, I've always thought that at least out of the box, voice was advantageous to brands in particular categories, because no one is going to say, Alexa, please order me facial tissue. They're going to ask for Kleenex.
Right.
And there she is talking in the background. That's my mistake for
Looks
talking.
Like that's what's got you up and worried, Oshiya.
But the point is, I think it's advantageous for some brands. But you're right; it still has time to play out, and I don't know where it's gonna go. So, Shri, I'm just gonna go ahead.
I think I was just going to say, I think it's not about, like, it's not advantageous for brands. It's just how do we start thinking about a media planning again, right? Because right now from offline to online media. And we've been so much about this retargeting, targeting, getting sharper with that. But to me, I think voice commerce may bring us back into that offline marketing space where it's about top of mind consideration, right? So I don't know how it's going to play out from a media's perspective.
All right. So Shri, I'm just going to make the call right now. Oshiya is such a great guest. We're going to have her back. But when we do, we're going to hold her feet to the fire because we're going to ask her now about predictions.
Oh my.
So we're going to hold you accountable. So think carefully about this. What do you see? What are your predictions for your business, the industry, over the course of the rest of the year? Say what's top of mind for you?
Yeah. I think this year is still up for grabs. I do not know with COVID-19. I haven't decided where COVID-19 is going. So we are definitely planning the year very conservatively because, there's a lot of operations and P&L management that goes into it. I think in just sort of being high level trends that I'm seeing will continue to shape the future of our retail. I do think that the mass and prestige will keep blending. I think that in the future, somehow Target is going to be the place where you could possibly find prestige brands. But it's not going to be on the aisles with your shopping cart. It's going to be shop and shop. There are going to be little areas. You know how there's a Starbucks, which is within Target? Yep. I wonder if there is going to be some interesting blend in of prestige environment because we've lost a lot of retailers. We've lost a lot of really good retailers recently. And I think that there is an opportunity there to build out a high touch, high service experience. It's like the Boots Walgreens model from the UK. It's what the Ulta model is. You can buy mass and prestige in the same area, right? And Shopper Drug Mart in Canada.
Yeah, I'm surprised that particular model has not emerged south of the border as extensively as it has there. I mean, they go, frankly, well above what even Ulta and Savur are doing in many cases. I'm quite impressed by their merchandising strategy.
I've been to Shopper Drug Mart. You literally, you walk in, it's prestige, everything looks beautiful. You're buying your $100 cream. You take 2 steps further in, you're buying your Tylenol. There's literally no trust. You're like 2 steps further in, you're buying Tylenol and like Band-Aids and stuff, right?
I know.
It's really your anchor. You walk in, you feel like $1 million, and then you go on with your life, and buy other stuff. So I think that model will it come to the US. I think it's a matter of time. I think all the brands need a place to sell, and I think Target, not so much Walmart. I feel like Target already is a Target, right? It's always been that perception of it that it's more engaged with the millennial audience. It's got that little vibe going to it. So I sometimes wonder what will happen there.
We actually saw a lot of that in the in the baby category at Johnson & Johnson, how the baby shopper started really congregating in and out of a Target.
Yeah, their adoption of direct-to-consumer brands and bringing them in store. I work with a Target-focused agency called the Bluebird Group, and they are solely focused on bringing D2C brands into Target and ones that tend to be a little bit more high end. So I think you may be right around where Target has some opportunities where other retailers in their space don't.
Quite honestly, when I am a big West Elm shopper, I love interior design. That's like my calling that I never addressed, right? And I love some of these stores like Anthropologie, West Elm, and so on. But quite honestly, Target beats them hands down. It copies their design. It's like significantly lower pricing, great quality. So I think they have to just figure out what that model is. But I think there is something there. The second thing that I feel like for department stores specifically, it's a vision of mine. I don't know how long it'll take to get there. It may never get there. But I do think that one of the fundamental things, right, that the root cause of departments are struggling as much as it is, it's real estate and it's inventory, right? So much overheads that are going into it, right? And so much inventory that's locked up, 16 to 18 weeks and so on. What if we were to try and address those two causes at the heart of it, right? And we say that we are going to enable online shopping in retail. So you go to a store and all you're doing is just testing the product. You test the product, you love it, There's a little iPad there. You order your thing and it arrives. By the time you get home, it's there, right? That's it. And it's happening already, right? Like in cities, it's happening already where you get the same day delivery. It's the same thing. And you get rid of all of your expensive real estate. You can literally have a studio, right? And house all your brands. There's no need to carry inventory. And it's all in a backup warehouse that doesn't have to look pretty with lots of lights and air conditioning and all of that beautiful stuff. So you address two fundamental issues that are plaguing, if you will, the retail environment. And I feel like it could be something very interesting.
It's drizzly for beauty products. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Osh, this has been such a interesting and engaging conversation. On behalf of both Peter and me, I want to thank you for joining us today. And also, as the VP of the luxury division for Revlon Inc., I want to wish you good luck for the balance of the year. Hopefully business will get back on track and things will only go forward. Thank you for an excellent conversation also about what's to come in the future for this category, etc. For all our listeners, you can find all our content. Especially, you can download and listen to our podcasts on Apple CPG Podcasts, found via tinyurl.com/Apple CPG Podcast. You can also find all our content, which includes our videos, our YouTube channel, as well as our LinkedIn channel, available on linktr.ee/CPGguys. Again, linktr.ee/CPGguys. And Osh, it's been a pleasure having you. And Peter, as always, every single week, this is a lot of fun. And look forward to the next episode with another guest here on consumer engagement in an omni-channel world. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPGGUYS LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPGGUYS LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPGGUYS LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPGGUYS LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.